Well, the Champions League is coming, so let's see how many teams I can jinx with my group stage predictions. How this will work is, I'll give my thoughts on each team in each group and predict where they'll end up in each group. Also, note that I don't really pay attention to teams outside of the top 5 leagues, so take my opinions with a grain of salt. In Group A, we have Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. Bayern have been fantastic this season and have seen a significant improvement under Tuchel. Harry Kane has fit in perfectly in the Bavarian attack, and they show no signs of weakness so far. The Champions League is also a competition that Bayern are intimately familiar with, winning it as recently as 2020. Next we have Man United, and they're, well, looking bleak. In the Premier League thus far, United have played 5 matches, won 2, and lost 3. Oh, and both wins against Wolves and Nottingham Forest felt thoroughly undeserved. There is also plenty of trouble in the dressing room. Sancho and Antony are both suspended for separate reasons, leaving few options on the wings. Mount has been underperforming, as is Onana. Casemiro is starting to show his age, and there are crucial injuries in defense, namely Shaw and Varane. This leaves only Martinez and Lindelof as primary center backs, and if they also get injured, the Red Devils will have to rely on
Harry Maguire!
When the opponent fails to score, Maguire will score for them. Look, I feel like Maguire is a little bit overhated, but I can't deny, if United have to put their hopes on him, their chances are slim at best. Saying this man is out of form would be the understatement of the century. Copenhagen played in the last Champions League group, but finished last in their group, getting 0 wins. And finally, we have Galatasaray, who are currently second in the Super League. Galatasaray are doing really well, having won the last domestic league and sporting a star-studded squad. The candidates from Turkey boast the likes of Muslera, Icardi, Zaha, and Ziyech, among others. Now for the rankings. I have no doubt in my mind that Bayern will finish first in this group, as their form is just too good for any other result. Next, I'm going to do something a little controversial by placing Galatasaray second and Man United third. Considering United's form, injury list, and behind-the-scenes problems, I just can't see them beating Galatasaray. And finally, we have Copenhagen in last place. In Group B, we have Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and Lens. This season, Sevilla have been horrible, currently hovering just over the relegation zone, having already lost 3 La Liga matches. Of course, they won the Europa League last season, but that was when they did terribly in La Liga and finished 3rd in their group. Sevilla's finances are also in complete shambles, with news back in June that they transfer listed their entire squad to try to pay off their debts. So yeah, this club isn't doing so well. Next, we have high-flying Arsenal, who last season led the Premier League for 93% of the season, only to finish second. If that isn't bottling, I don't know what is. Jokes aside, this Arsenal team are still in fantastic form, albeit a little less exciting to watch than last season. With the likes of Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Jesus, Saliba, Ramsdale, and more, Arsenal are a force to be reckoned with this season. Then we have PSV, who are currently first in the Eredivisie. Not only that, they've only played 4 matches, conceded only 1 goal, but already scored 13 times. This team definitely looks promising this year. Finally, we have RC Lens, and I won't sugarcoat it, they've been awful. Horrendous. Last place in Ligue 1, after miraculously finishing second and almost causing a PSG meltdown last season. This team seems to have run out of steam and are desperately trying to regain form to avoid relegation. So yeah, not looking good. Right, so how will Group B look? First of all, I think Arsenal are finishing first. Their squad and form are just terrifying compared to everyone else in this group, even though Havertz will surely try his best to prevent this. Next, we have PSV in second. I think the Eredivisie leaders will find this group a little tough, but I still expect them to pull through. In third, we have Sevilla. Given their shambolic form and management, I can't see them going through to the knockouts. They'll probably get relegated to the Europa League, and in classic fashion, will inevitably win the Europa League again. Man, imagine if they get relegated but win the Europa League. Imagine having a second division side in the Champions League next season. And finally, we have Lens in last. Not much to be explained here. In Group C, we have Napoli, Real Madrid, Braga, and Union Berlin. Napoli, having gone through a fantastic season last year, look to extend their fairy tale run this year. Although they are 5th in Serie A right now, it's still too early in the season to make any definitive conclusions in this area of the table. Next we have Real Madrid, and boy, what more is to be said? Won the competition in 2022, not to mention they're the most decorated Champions League club, and it's not even close. 14 Champions Leagues compared to second place AC Milan with 7. Although Courtois and Militao are injured and key players such as Modric and Kroos are aging, you don't underestimate Real. After all, if they pick up another injury, they can always rely on Camavinga. There, I said it. Then we have Braga, who are currently 8th in the Primera Liga. Mostly the same assessment as Napoli. I think it's still too early to say anything concrete about this club's form right now. Lastly, we have Union Berlin, who are 8th in the Bundesliga. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but yeah, can't say anything final about this team so far. However, Berlin do possess quite a few star players like Gozens, Aronson, Volland, and Bonucci, although the Italian is aging and rapidly declining. Okay, so how will Group C look? First place goes to Real Madrid, no questions asked. In second, we have Napoli, though they have similar form to Union and Braga. I think their wealth of experience in the Champions League will help them secure the path to the knockouts. Although I certainly won't mind if they finish first instead of Real. Then, due to the competition in the Bundesliga, I think third place will go to Union Berlin and last place will go to Braga. In Group D, we have Benfica, Inter Milan, RB Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. Benfica have been doing surprisingly well in the Champions League, reaching the quarterfinals in the last 2 seasons. And now that Di Maria has returned in stunning form, I think Benfica fans have a lot to look forward to this season. Then we have the team that knocked out Benfica last season, Inter Milan. Without exaggeration, the Nerazzurri have been absolutely terrifying this season. They're currently holding first in Serie A, having just beaten bitter rivals AC Milan by 5-1. Inter boast the likes of a promising Thuram, a sleek midfield with Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan, a solid defense with De Vrij and Bastoni commanded by Sommer, and an informed Lautaro Martinez leading the attack. Let's not forget that Inter nearly won the Champions League last season, with City struggling to keep them at bay at several points during the final. Inter were only barely denied by City's greatest defender. La caca! Next we have RB Salzburg, who are, surprise surprise, first in the Austrian Bundesliga. Red Bull gives you wings, moving on. Lastly, we have Real Sociedad, who are currently 11th in La Liga. They are currently struggling to recreate their form last year and haven't looked too convincing with 3 draws. Now, how will Group D turn out? No surprise that I think first place goes to Inter Milan. They're just way too strong at the moment. Second goes to Benfica. I can see them continuing their strong run in European football, especially with an experienced player like Di Maria in the ranks. In third, we have RB Salzburg, because Red Bull. And in last place, we have Real Sociedad. Maybe they're trying to focus more on the Champions League, but I can't see a mid-table team finishing higher than last. In Group E, we have Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. Feyenoord are currently 4th in the Eredivisie, which I still think is too early to tell how they'll do this season. Meanwhile, we have Atletico Madrid, who have been extremely inconsistent this season, having highs like securing a record-breaking 7-0 win over Rayo Vallecano, and lows like losing to Valencia, who almost got relegated last season. Diego Simeone is continually trying to keep a declining club afloat, and it isn't looking too promising, as Atletico embarrassingly finished last in their group last season, in a group they should have flattened on paper. Then we have Lazio, and we have another big team being terrible this season. They're currently 15th in Serie A after regaining a UCL spot, although considering how their fans behave during matches, I'm more than happy to watch this club implode and suffer. Finally, we have Celtic. Let's be honest, despite them holding first in the Scottish Premiership, it isn't looking too good for them. So how will Group E look? Well, I'm going to do something a little controversial and say Feyenoord top the group. In second, I think we have Atletico Madrid. They've just been way too hot and cold so far. Finally, I'm predicting Celtic finish 3rd and Lazio finish 4th. Look, maybe Brendan Rodgers can produce some sort of miracle performance and Celtic will end up in the Europa League, while Lazio have been too awful so far to finish anywhere but last. And once again, I'm more than happy to see this club's downfall if it happens. Group F. Someone explain this group to me. What script was used here? Unquestionably, this year's group of death. We have PSG, Borussia Dortmund, AC Milan, and Newcastle United. Holy cow! Starting off with PSG, they have also seen highs and lows with Luis Enrique. The Parisians' attack is easily their best asset, with the likes of Dembele, Ramos, Kolo Muani, and Supreme Emperor Mbappe. However, PSG have struggled with their midfield, which is especially bad because Enrique plays a possession-heavy style of football. Next, we have Dortmund. After amazingly bottling the league last season, Dortmund haven't exactly been the same following the departure of their star, Jude Bellingham. Royce is still injury-prone, they're 7th in the Bundesliga, moving on. AC Milan have been poorly run as of late and barely scraped a Champions League spot last season. Only got it because of Juventus being docked 10 points too. Despite a semi-final appearance last time, the Rossoneri were rather bleak until the start of this season. Milan will no doubt be carried by forwards Leao, Giroud, and new boy Pulisic, but questions need to be asked of their defense. And then we have Newcastle. Having been taken over by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the Magpies returned to the Champions League for the first time since 2004. That being said, their inexperience in Europe and the fact that they have to focus on both domestic and intercontinental matches makes me think they'll suffer, especially in this group. Boy oh boy, how will Group F finish? This is going to be filled with debate, but because I'm such a maverick, here's how I think it'll turn out. In first, we have AC Milan. Despite all my doubts about this team, I still think they can top the group. Now in second, I place my bets on Dortmund. They still have quite a few rising stars and can make it to the knockouts. And now PSG in third. Look, this could be controversial, especially since the Parisians have Mbappe, but let's not forget that last year, they couldn't even top a significantly easier group. Oh, and who did they finish second to? Benfica. I'm honestly going to predict PSG going to the Europa League this time, and last place goes to Newcastle. Though this team is quickly rising, their questionable form as of late and their inexperience with a busier schedule will cost them, in my opinion. In Group G, we have Manchester City, RB Leipzig, Red Star Belgrade, and BSC Young Boys. There isn't much to be said about City, the defending champions, and boasting an absolutely stacked team. The likes of Haaland, Kovacic, Silva, Rodri, an injured De Bruyne, and more will make any team tremble. Not to mention Guardiola is a genius tactician, provided he doesn't overthink things. Now we have RB Leipzig, who hold third in the Bundesliga. Having handed Bayern their first Super Cup loss since 2019, Leipzig are in fine form, and with the likes of Dani Olmo and Timo Werner, I have no doubt that Red Bull gives you wing. Next we have Red Star Belgrade, who are third in the Superliga. This club from Serbia are undoubtedly underdogs in this group, and I don't expect them to do much against the likes of City and Leipzig. Finally, we have Young Boys, who have quite the record of UCL results, including an upset win over Man United in 2021. However, I can't see them producing the same results against City. So how will Group G look? First place has to be Man City. They're just too dominant over Europe right now, and their team looks just about unstoppable. I think second place goes to RB Leipzig, pretty clear-cut with their strong squad and wealth of European experience. Then in third, we have Young Boys, and fourth goes to Red Star Belgrade. Fate has finally had mercy on us Barca fans, as Barcelona get Group H, arguably the easiest group this season. Finally, after 2 years of suffering, we have a decent chance of getting into the knockouts at last, at long last. Sorry, that was unprofessional. As mentioned before, Barcelona get drawn into a group with Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Antwerp. Barcelona have been in a pretty convincing rebuild lately, having won La Liga last season and chasing Real Madrid for this year's title. Though the team has bid farewell to veterans Busquets and Alba, they also have plenty of promising young talent like Pedri, Gavi, Balde, and Yamal. Next we have Porto, who made it to the UCL knockouts last year. They're also currently third in the Primera Liga. This team contains stars like Pepe, Taremi, Diogo Costa, and more, so expect them to make an impact this year. Then we have Shakhtar Donetsk. This team from Ukraine have a history of not doing too well in the competition, but also pulling off unlikely upsets, such as holding Real Madrid to a draw last year. Though they lost Mudryk in the winter, this team still can't be written off. Lastly, we have Antwerp. Captain Captained by Belgian legend Alderweireld, they still want to make their mark on the UCL this season after winning the league in spectacular fashion. Unfortunately, they're currently 5th in the Pro League with questionable form. So, how will Group G end up? First place most likely goes to Barcelona. At last, Porto will probably take 2nd place, while Shakhtar Donetsk will claim 3rd and Antwerp finish last. Those are my Champions League predictions. I'll be sure to check back after the group stage and see how poorly everything aged.